3, 2, 1. Okay, thank you everyone for joining us today. I have learned that because we plan this so far in advance, it often slips our minds and it slips up on us, and for doing these 2 months at a time. So I'll make that a call to action for the new year before we have our February meeting, to remind ourselves, our committee and all our council members, a few weeks in advance, and then perhaps a weekly leading up to that. We had an agenda. I'm not sure if that landed in your calendar appointment or not. Does anyone have that? I think it's, we had a Microsoft Word document there, but that's not the agenda item. So let me pull that up really quick.
It's in the invite. It was in the calendar invite.
Thank you, Roseanne. I see it. Okay, so item number 1, we have our co-chair, John Rutherford, on to talk about the name change to the Personnel Committee.
Okay, am I on now? Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. I was having trouble getting unmuted, sorry. Yes, and one of the things that I wanted to do as the new chairman of the Personnel Committee was to take a look at the actual name of the committee, which encompasses not only personnel, but public information, and there's a couple of items beyond personnel that it encompasses. And I wanted to add veterans to that title. And so that took a rule change, which I proposed and council voted on. So now veterans is now tagged onto the end of the title. I'm sure the committee will still be commonly referred to as the Personnel Committee, but I thought it was important to recognize the fact that the Personnel Committee does have some oversight, if you will, of veterans issues for Metro, and the fact that our VSO positions fall under the direction of the of Metro HR. So it seemed appropriate that we tag veterans on as a title to show, if nothing else, that we as Metro government care about our veterans enough to have the name veterans as part of the name of the Personnel Committee. And so we did that, and I was very happy to propose that and sponsor that, and proud that the council went along with that.
Super, thank you. And I didn't think that we were able to have Lisa Kiss to join us, but we do now have 2 VSOs hired. One of them is a position that was created during the budget cycle, with 39 of the 40 council members voting on adding an additional VSO position. And one of the positions was vacated during the pandemic. And so Lisa was able to hire 2 people to replace that one and then fill in the new slot. John, are you aware of the start date of those?
I believe it is after the first of the year, but we do have Shannon Hall on with us that may be able to address that.
Hi there, how's everyone?
Hey, good. Thanks for joining us.
Of course.
Thank you, Shannon.
Yes, I believe the start date for both of those, I think they're running concurrent. I hadn't heard on the second, but I believe they're both going to be, we're going to have them start officially on January 1, which means their first day will be a paid holiday. But then they will functionally start with us on the 4th, that Monday. Lisa, like I said, we had this opportunity when very unfortunately Katie could no longer serve in this capacity and offered her resignation. So we worked with Lisa, and she said it would be a lot easier to train 2 at one time. But the individual we made the first offer to, which was the vacancy the council granted in this fiscal year budget, actually has prior experience. So we expect that he's going to get up to speed quite quickly and actually could help to aid and facilitate the training of the 2. And then Lisa will be at full strength because she's been an amazing one-woman show for the better part of 2 months.
She certainly has been. Thank you. And the next item on our agenda was to discuss a potential Veterans Commission moving forward. And John, did you want to explain the reasoning behind that?
Yes, and before I do, I wanted to say I hope that we can have our new SOs join us for introductions, if nothing else, on our next caucus call.
I'll write that down.
Okay. But then on the topic of the Veterans Commission, this is another thing that I had looked at as the new chair of the Personnel Committee. I took a look at what other cities are doing. That's always a good thing to do, sort of make some comparisons and see what else is going on out there. And we don't always have to reinvent the wheel with everything that we do. See what has been successful in other municipalities. And I noticed that there are a lot of local governments that have veteran commissions that do a variety of things. And I thought it was worth at least studying, if you will, for Metro to see whether or not it's something that could benefit Metro and benefit our local veterans, form a commission for veterans for Metro. And what I have found, well, first off, let me back up a step, because the vice mayor had basically charged the new incoming committee chairs with trying to do a little more than had been done in the past, and not just hearing legislation that came before the committee, but actually doing some real work, some real research, looking into what the individual committees could do within their domain. And of course, veterans falls under personnel, so and that's something that I was certainly interested in doing. This came to mind for me, and I have since charged the committee itself with doing some research as well. I sort of gave the committee a homework assignment, if you will, to sort of, we'll regroup on it after the first of the year, see what folks' thoughts are. And I also had a great conversation with Shannon Hall as well, the HR director, about this topic and how that might work within HR. And my thoughts initially, in terms of a commission, would be to help sort of pool our resources around the Metro in terms of what we're doing for our veterans locally. It would be a commission, made up of folks who are mostly veterans, who are tied into the veteran community. And it would be where a lot of great ideas could come from, new ideas, new thought processes for how we can better serve our veterans in our community. And of course, the VSOs now expanded to 3 positions. That's where the real, work comes in terms of the actual outreach, the actual hands-on with our veteran community, in particular, those who are in the most need. And I think a Veterans Commission could add to that and help us figure out better ways in which we could serve. And so that's kind of the thought process. And I want the caucus to also be involved in terms of that process. And I could essentially give the caucus the same homework assignment, if you will, looking into it, deciding or making determinations as to how you think it serve Metro and what we can do better on behalf of our veterans, and whether or not a commission could truly help us do that. And so it's not a matter of deciding that, yes, we absolutely want to do this. It's deciding whether or not it would benefit Metro and whether or not we should. So that's kind of where we are right now. And of course, we can, discuss that a little further today while we have the time, and entertain anything one might have on it.
And do you know of other cities that have a Veterans Commission?
I know they are out. I don't have a list in front of me, but I know I found several as I was doing some research. One comes to mind. I believe Indianapolis has one, and they're also a metropolitan form of government. So I also look for that. I look because not every city is set up the same, and certainly everyone is not a metropolitan form of government like we are. And so you have to look to and think about the fact that we are more of a county legislative body. So making that comparison as well into how a commission would fit into the whole scheme of things. And I know we have a ton of boards and commissions, and so we don't want to just create one for the sake of creating one. We want it to have actual purpose and to actually benefit our veterans. And so that's the critical piece. What can it actually do? We don't just want to do it for the sake of, waving our flag. We want it to actually accomplish something. And so that's part of the discussion, if you will. How could it best serve our local veterans, and whether or not it's beneficial? Can we do better by having a commission than what we're doing now? That's the question ultimately we need to answer before we would go forward.
Yes. And we have Councilman Sledge is also on the line, and he's a great supporter of veterans. If you're able to unmute Councilman Sledge, have you been on the council when we've added any commissions? I don't know when the last commission is that we've added.
That's a good question. I'm thinking through from a commission standpoint. We did the Housing Trust Fund Commission, which was shortly before my time, and then that led to obviously what we have now is a standing committee, so it kind of went the other way.
Right.
I can't think of a commission that we've done in the last few years. But the council has, through legislation previously, and in sort of quote unquote recent history, created new commissions like the Housing Trust Fund Commission.
Right.
Well, the HR director may be able to answer that too.
I'm actually trying to think through the same, honestly, drawing back on that, my detour from HR to the clerk's office, trying to think back if we have a commission component. The Housing Trust is a good call. The Community Oversight Board was a whole different path and understanding. And again, we're not necessarily looking for a governing board of VSOs.
Right.
I'll keep trying to kind of brainstorm. I mean, clearly it's something we can do. I think Councilman Rutherford has really outlined those very thoughtfully and responsibly. I think there's no need to have a commission unless it brings a particular value or gap to helping us better meet veteran needs. I think the balancing act to that is, depending on the breadth of a commission, if you have one, and the frequency, that then becomes something else that like VSOs would have to support, which is time away from veterans.
Right.
So that's something else to consider. But I also think I'm really interested to see specifically, and I think Indianapolis is an interesting study if we had more information on that. I think for all the reasons that Councilman Rutherford outlined, metropolitan form of government, somewhat of a regional in size peer. So I think that's pretty interesting as well. I also think about the actual placement and partnerships that our VSOs reside for their employment. I feel like the commission would be serving a much more needed role if our VSOs were housed in HR. But the fact that they are literally in probably the best situated place to get access to the partners around veterans in Operation Stand Down is like the most ideal place that they could ever be. So that's also an interesting aspect as Councilman Rutherford had outlined his comments, but I completely agree with his very thoughtful and responsible comments about the pros and cons and things to consider when contemplating a commission.
Right. And we can also pull on the knowledge from John Cooper and Mike Jameson, as they've had, a long history in the government, to see if we did decide to develop a commission, what sort of process that would be and how welcome that would be if we seem to be top heavy on them or not, in addition to making sure this is something we want to do. So it sounds like we've got homework to do.
We do, and that's what I've been calling it, as I've sort of handed that out to the personnel committee and now to the caucus. It's a homework assignment. I would be curious too, because I haven't looked too in depth at the multitude of commissions that we have. But is there a commission, and Shannon Hall might be able to answer this better than anyone else. Is there an existing board or commission within Metro that could sort of take on the assignment of also including veterans in what they do?
Yeah, we'll look at that.
I think it's worth looking at for sure. There's nothing immediately off the top of my head, but it would be really interesting to take a gander. My guess is no, but I think because we have 70 plus of them, I think going down that list and just kind of looking at their functions may be helpful. But my guess is possibly not.
Okay.
And I also think it would be handy when we're able to get the all three VSOs attention, maybe, you know, end of January, early February, and talk to them about their experience and who they've, you know, interacted with in other cities, and if those folks have commissions or what they think we could gain from that, if anything. Okay, well, I think, anyone else have any comments on item 3?
Councilwoman Hancock, this Councilwoman Vercher. Hi, I had my hand raised, so.
I'm sorry, I was not looking at those hands. You are welcome to speak, Councilor Richard.
So we have formed a commission before. This is from me being on the Greenways Commission way back in the day. And that commission is the Greenways. It started out being the advisory up under Metro Parks, and the Greenways for Nashville is the fundraising arm for the Greenways Commission, because as a Metro entity, you're not allowed to do that.
Right. That's a great point. So is that the primary reason the commission was formed, was to raise funds?
No, so Greenways for Nashville was formed to raise funds for Greenway outside of Metro government.
Yes. Got it.
But the commission initially started out some conversations as an advisory board to Metro Parks, and then it morphed into a commission that falls up under Metro Parks.
Yes. Well, thank you. I didn't know your history with that. That's great to learn.
Yeah, that's one of the many commissions I've been on before. But to Director Hall's, and I forget who asked the question about if there's a commission that this could currently fall up under. What would be a befitting department that this commission could fall up under? Would it be within HR or some type of, we have Metro Humans Commission. I don't know if we want a commission up under a commission. I'm just talking out loud. Yeah, I'm just talking out loud.
Councilor Vercher, my guess is just because the veteran component and the VSOs are under human resources, I can't think of another place that would reside, because I think it wouldn't be as aligned with the employment of the veteran services officers to perform the services.
And currently, right now, like, you don't have any commissions up under you, right? You just only
have two.
Which two?
The Employee Benefit Board.
Okay, that's what, I don't see it as a
commission.
Okay, all right. Okay.
What was the second one?
The Civil Service Commission. That's
yes.
who I report to, and they oversee the employment rules. Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, Councilwoman Hancock, that's my 2 cents.
That's great sense. I love it. And we have Lisa has joined the call. Welcome, Lisa.
Thank you. I'm sorry I was late. I had an RJ Young tech at my house fixing my printer.
Ooh, printing is important. And we had briefly discussed 2 VSOs, and Shannon let us know the start date was January 1. Is there anything you'd like to say about them, or do you just want to introduce them in the new year?
Well, I definitely would like to introduce them in the new year. I just want to say that they are both veterans as per the TCA. One is Navy and the other is Army. They should be trained up fairly soon. They're going to go to training at the end of January, and I'm very excited to get the gentleman up and running and helping me out soon.
Excellent.
more historic because of the history of the Army and the Navy. So,
Did you watch the game Saturday?
Historic game this past weekend. So go Navy.
Go Army.
We're going to have to create at least one more position so we can get an Air Force person in there.
I was thinking about that. We do need to be rounded out. Although if you can do Air Force, then you need to do Coastie, and eventually you have to do a Space Force. So
And maybe a
gotta
Marine.
grow. Oh, well, yeah. It would be nice to have that many people.
It would be. We can always dream.
Right.
Well, speaking of rounding it out, I wanted to add something onto the agenda that is partially veterans related or service related in any case, with the COVID vaccines hitting the news and hitting the streets this week. The National Guard here in Tennessee will be likely involved in the distribution. They haven't ironed out all of the details yet, but I would just want to go over a few publicly available pieces of information, but I'm sure people are interested in learning about it if they haven't already. So the state has already received almost 1,975, I think, dosages to use in case of any supplies being damaged. But the first big shipment will arrive this Thursday from Pfizer, 56,550 doses, and they're going to be delivered to 28 sites covering 74 Tennessee hospitals. And we expect a similar shipment 3 weeks later. They're going to the largest hospitals first because the Pfizer vaccine requires much lower temperatures. And when approved, the Moderna vaccine, if that's how you say it, will go to the state's more rural hospitals. And they've set priorities for the vaccine. Obviously, healthcare workers with direct exposure to patients first, residents and workers in long-term care facilities, first responders with direct exposure, and then another 100,000 healthcare workers like pharmacists, patient transporters, dentists, urgent care employees, mental health providers, adults with 2 or more high-risk conditions. And that total in phase 1 would be like 1.2 million people. And in phase 2, they'll roll it out to workers in critical utilities, infrastructure, transportation, post office, funeral homes, teachers, school, daycare staff, and people with 1 risk factor, and healthy adults that are over the age of 65, in corrections facilities and congregate care residents and staff. So that's going to be another 2.5 million. And then phase 3, they don't know when these phases are going to line out because it just depends on when the dosages are available. Phase 3 will vaccinate young adults and children, as well as workers and industries important to society with a high risk of exposure, like universities, entertainment, and goods producing industry. So that's going to be 2 million. And then phase 4 will be everyone else. And that will begin when all the other phases have been completed. And the goal is phase 4 perhaps to be summer of 21. So we're hoping it's going to keep rolling out just as fast as planned. And the distribution is going to go again to hospitals first, and then the National Guard will help with the distribution across the state as those phase 2s through 4 go. But because the vaccines have to be administered in 2 shots a couple of weeks apart and have specific temperature storage, they're going to try to bring people to the vaccines instead of bringing the vaccines to the people. But we are going to try to spread them out across the state. So it might not be in your neighborhood, but it'll be in your county, and they'll try to figure it out from there. But I'm just really pleased with the National Guard. They've really stepped up throughout this pandemic, not only from the tornado cleanup to the pandemic with the testing, and now with helping with the vaccine distribution. It's just a great service to our entire community. And that was the last item on the agenda. It's short and sweet for December. But does anyone have anything else they'd like to add or see us work on for the new year?
Yeah, I like to sort of add real quick to your conversation about the vaccine. Is that I read just yesterday an interesting note that a part of the first rollout is going to include vaccines to 75 different VA facilities. I looked at the list. It includes the VA in Memphis, but does not include the VA in Nashville. I'm not sure what criteria they were using, maybe just based on the number of our population that they serve, or whether it's, I'm just not sure what the criteria is, but Nashville's not on the list, but Memphis is. So I guess we can get the second round.
Yeah, I mean, we would not be a rural area, so that seems like.
I was surprised. I thought we would be in the first round. I would think we're serving a higher population than most, but maybe not. But that's what I was thinking. A lot of our Middle Tennessee folks also go to Murfreesboro as opposed to Nashville, to the York Center. But that may be part of it. We may be spread out a little more than some of the others. But anyway, I just thought I'd throw that out there because it was interesting. I read that just yesterday.
That is interesting. I'll keep an eye on that. All right. Well, if there's nothing else, I move we adjourn.
I second that.
Everybody.
Thanks, everyone.
For joining the call. Thanks.
And we'll see you this evening on hopefully just as succinct a meeting.
Yes.
This has been a service of the Metro Nashville Network. If you would like to see this presentation again, or for more information about this and other programs, visit nashville.gov.